This show is a part of the Quite the Thing Media Podcast Network.
Hey everybody,
This is Kim.
and this is Cal, and you're listening to Shiny Things.
I love our recording studio today, Kelly.
I know we're venturing out. We're actually sitting by the river at the boat launch. So if you hear nature, don't be scared.
Or don't think that we're doing a crappy job.
Right.
But we don't have any control over the birds chirping and the dog barking in the background.
Right.
Whining. Not barking.
Or panting.
It is nice down here.
It's really nice, and the breeze is beautiful. So we figured we'd treat ourselves. But I wanted to follow up. So I still don't know what happened to the people on the boat. There's still no stories.
Why do they do that? You know what that's like, Kelly?
It's a tease.
It's like when somebody's building something and there's a whole bunch of hubbub going on, but they don't tell you what they're building.
Right, and then you're like, oh, it was just a bank.
Yeah. I mean, I think they should have to put a sign out that says what they're building.
Right. And then with the Versace deaths, they were deemed to be double suicides. The two guys that they found in the old Versace mansion that's now a hotel.
Oh.
Yeah, so they were that was a double suicide. Just sad.
I mean, I guess I just don't understand what could be so bad in your life. But I guess that's depression, and
Depression's a bitch.
I'll tell you though, if you want to go, that's the place to go.
I know, it's probably beautiful.
Yeah, I bet it is.
I was looking, it's really expensive to get a room there.
And they wasted all that money.
Yeah.
Oh well. Well, at least
now
it wasn't
room's
murder.
haunted. That room's probably haunted.
Not necessarily, because they went the way they wanted to go.
I know, but I would haunt that place. If you're in that beautiful setting, why would you want to leave?
I could think of another place I'd rather haunt.
You'd go to the Disneyland. No, you don't want to be stuck in... Well, I want to be able to go to different places haunting.
Yeah, that sounds fun.
Like,
That sounds like a plan, but...
like today we're going to haunt this place. Tomorrow, let's go to the mall.
Could you imagine haunting somebody, but it's harmless?
I have a list.
Standing behind them and like playing with their hair, so they always feel like there's a bug in their hair or something. Just something random like that.
Oh yeah, I have a list of people I'm going to haunt.
I have a list too.
And then for the other true crime, the dating game killer, I'm going to do his story eventually. He died in prison over the weekend. He was...
I saw that.
Yeah, so I thought that was...
Was he shanked or did he kill himself?
No, I think he died of natural causes. He was in his 70s, I believe. But yeah, he was a first-class scumbag, so...
Didn't they make a movie of that too?
Yeah, they've made a movie about everything.
Sooner or later, they're going to run out of topics.
Well, there are so many they guesstimate that there's a good deal of serial killers operating just in the U.S. alone. So think about down in Mexico. If there's a serial killer, they're going to totally just get away with it.
Yeah, because
The
there's
cartel...
not a lot of control down there.
They probably just blame the cartel and things like that. So,
But you know what? The murder shows that they have on TV, I like them, but they have to be giving people ideas on how to commit a murder.
well, that's what I always say. I was like, because people have been like, why do you like those shows? And I was like, it's so you know how to not get caught.
What, Kelly, are you trying to tell me something?
No, because think of all the smart people that got away with it and they don't have a show on them because there's no show to be had.
Actually, you don't know how many smart people there are or how many really deviant minds there are out there. If they haven't gotten caught, you really don't have a true number yet.
Exactly. So that's why I'm like, these are the ones that they found. But I was listening to Morbid this week, and they're doing a story on the TikTok killings where people use this app and actually it gives you coordinates and stuff, and they found suitcase on the beach, and inside the suitcase were 2 bodies.
Wow.
So I haven't finished it yet, but I'm excited. So that's a fun story I'm listening to now. But today I wanted to focus on Lizzie Halliday because she was actually a New York serial killer.
Really?
Yeah.
I've never heard of her.
She was a crazy bitch.
Is it from nowadays or is it?
Oh no,
old
this
time?
is 1800s.
Oh, okay.
So she was actually because she's an immigrant from I almost called her an immigrant from Ireland. The records are really messed up from back then, so they actually put her year of birth between 1859 and 1864.
Okay.
So there's a huge gap. So when you look at records, she was in the country, the county of Antrim in Ireland, and her family immigrated in 1867 when she was young. So she could have been 3 or she could have been 8 when they arrived
Okay.
because of the records.
Well, it could have been worse. There could have been a 20-year span there.
Exactly. So little's known about her childhood, but the family had moved from Ireland to the U.S. for a better life, like most immigrants had. But she was just evil incarnate. They said that she was one of the most evil killers. But that was back in the 1800s. I don't know. They haven't seen the brutality of today. You know what I mean? So, for back then, she was pretty brutal.
From some of the cases that we've researched, it seems like they pretty just as brutal back then as they are now. And actually, it sounds to me like there was more women than men back then.
Yeah, it's interesting because I thought that as well, because it seems like they kind of got away with it more because it was less assuming that they had, and they were more for financial gain and things back then.
Yeah.
But they didn't have things like insurance companies or fraud detections
Right.
and things like that. So it was a lot easier to get away with it. And that back then, you had to be freaking tough.
Badass.
Right. I was like,
Some of the things that, I'm researching, well, I'm not going to say who it is, but I'm researching somebody from well over 100 years ago, and she was a horrible person. Horrible person.
Lizzie wasn't super great. So she was a criminal prodigy, they called her. She had actually married a man his name was Charles Hopkins, but they called him Ketzpool Brown.
Okay, I can see where that would be short for that.
Right.
Yeah, sure.
So she married him in 1879. They had a son who was later institutionalized, and I couldn't find anything on the son. I couldn't find a name or anything because I wanted to see.
Was he in Ireland at the time?
No, so she had been in the U.S. by
Oh.
that time.
Huh, that's interesting.
So they were married for 2 years, and then he just kind of died. But don't worry. Later that year, she married Artemis Brewer. Brewer was an older man, and he had died less than 1 year later.
That's a cool name, Artemis.
I love that name. There's a character on It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and her name's Artemis.
I love those old-timey names.
But, yeah, so it's and then at the funeral, apparently she wasn't all that grievy. So they kind of were like, okay, she's lost 2 husbands now in less than a year. And she's not all that upset about it. So they were starting to question whether or not they had been natural deaths or murders.
They're putting 2 and 2 together.
I know, they were pretty smart back then. But her next husband, Hiram Parkinson.
That's another great name.
Hiram, yep.
Hiram.
Hiram.
Reminds me of Heine. That could be his nickname.
They may have called him Heine.
That's an awful nickname.
I know. So he was smart, and he actually got the hell out of Dodge. There wasn't really a lot on why he left, but I'm pretty sure she probably showed her true colors, and he was a little quicker than the other guys.
I'm out.
Right, peace. So it wasn't long, though, before she married Artemis's friend, George Smith. And within a few months of their marriage, she attempted to poison him.
So now she's on her 4th man.
Her 4th man. And this one, she's not even married for, a couple of months, and she tried to poison his tea.
Where is she getting all these men? I mean, I know women nowadays that have a lot of trouble trying to find the right man. Well, I guess she really isn't that choosy. She's just going to kill him anyway.
Yeah, she is. Well, they didn't have Match.com back then either, so
True.
you're right.
Plenty of fish.
Yeah, and if you look at her picture, she looks insane. Like, she's got this crazy hair. So she wasn't even, like, a catch.
Did she come from money?
No. So I'll explain because she has more husbands.
Oh, dear.
So after she poisoned him and he recovered, she left for Bellows Falls, Vermont. And while she was in Vermont, she married a guy named Charles Plaistel, and she vanished just after 2 weeks. So she was just like, all right, I'm done here, and just left.
Well, now there's two guys that are actually real smart.
Right, they're still.
You're like, this bitch is too crazy. I like them crazy, but not this crazy.
But then in 1888, she resurfaced in Philadelphia, and while she was searching for these fellow immigrants that they came over with, the McQuillans, so she actually did find them, and they were doing really good for themselves. They had a saloon on 1218 North Front Street, so she quickly reconnected with them, and while she was living with them, she changed her name to Mary Hopkins, or Maggie Hopkins. So I'm assuming maybe there was some heat on her.
So she's probably thinking they're going to catch up with me sooner or later, so I'm just going to recreate a new person.
Right.
Okay.
And it's so much easier back then.
That's pretty smart.
Like, I could be Rainbow Fire, and then
I could be like Crazy Eyes from Orange is the New.
Yeah.
She's
I
my
like
favorite
Crazy
character.
Eyes.
I love her. Did you ever see a picture of her?
She's gorgeous.
Oh my gosh.
She has a
really
new show,
is.
and it's really good.
How does she do that with her eyes? I guess
Lots of practice.
I could do it. I was just doing it. I gotta get a sock puppet for my hand, though.
Yes. I'm sure Frank has some socks you can
Anyway,
have.
I'm on that episode where she's talking to the sock puppet,
I love
and Judy's in there, the cook. Oh. Anyway, sorry. I get off topic.
So, did I skip? No. Okay, so as Maggie, she bought a store in the area, and it mysteriously burnt down.
Okay, so she's adding arson to her
And that's
long
another-
list of qualities.
Right. So upon investigating, the police concluded that the fire was an arson. And after trying to collect the insurance money, she was quickly charged with arson, and she was sent to the Eastern State Penitentiary. She was sentenced for 2 years, but she got out before then. So in 1889, she's released and decides to change her name to Lizzie Brown.
Okay, now we're on 3 names.
Right.
Okay.
So as Lizzie Brown, she quickly found work as a housekeeper for Mrs. Vaughn. She had, just as fast as she had gotten the job, she was fired like a month later. The woman was not having it. She was able to find another job housekeeping with Paul Halliday. This was where she comes to be Lizzie Halliday.
Oh.
So she has 4 names in all. So he's 70-year-old widower. He lived in Burlingame, New York, and he had 2 sons, Robert and John. And John had some sort of mental handicap. I couldn't really get in any details.
Mm-hmm.
But in May of 1891, the Halliday home burned to the ground, killing John. Given her history of arson, Lizzie was immediately the first suspect. So they sent her to an asylum. She was deemed cured and released. So she would team up with a neighbor, and she stole some horses and rode them to Newburgh to sell them. And on that case, she was charged with insanity. So she was acquitted for selling horses.
She was acquitted.
Acquitted. It's not crazy that, she did arson or anything like that.
Did she marry this last man?
Yeah, so...
Okay, so she was getting busy with her boss.
Right, so now we'll do the breakdown of her crimes. So John Halliday was Paul's son. She was suspected, since she had known dislike. I mean, everybody knew she did not like this kid. So she claimed that John had died trying to get her out of the fire.
So he was the one with the disability, or?
Yep. So he died trying to get Lizzie out of the fire. Investigators found that